Hey everyone, welcome to our 2023 prediction show. A prediction show that is not about predictions, but about listening to numbers and following data, I would like to say. My name is Ryan Kramer. I'm here, the head of marketing and growth here at Frisbee, and I'm with my co-host. I'll say co-host today, Pearl Ausch, COO of Frisbee. Pearl, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to warm up the day with a little bit of like excitement and happiness because it's like brutally cold here in New York. Funny enough, it's like warmer than last week, but like somehow the cold caught up with me, I guess. Maybe because I'm wearing like this thin Frisbee t-shirt, which is like super comfy, but yeah, it's cold. But yeah, I'm super excited. We're trying to get out with the old, in with the new. So this is that time of the year where it's the cool thing to do. So we're very excited to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, jokingly, we were talking about how you see a lot of these recaps of 2022, what people saw, what people thought would happen, and then we all like to put in our thinking caps and put out these projections of what we think might happen, ridiculous or not, based upon data and analytics. I thought it was kind of funny. People are saying, "Where do these come from?" So I said, "Let's make a non-prediction show because." Everything in e-commerce is not predictable. So that's what we're doing today. We brought on some very awesome special guests. For people who aren't aware of them, you're probably very new to the Amazon and e-commerce space. We have featured guests that said, yes, of course, we'd love to come on and give our thoughts and share our insights on our businesses, what we're seeing, and what we think might happen, of course, in 2023. So that's what this show is about. So thanks for tuning in live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Let's go ahead and kick it off since our guests are already out there and waiting. We have Leon Hirschcom and Destiny Washawn of Better AMS and Incrementum Digital, both agencies in the Amazon space. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Excited to be here.
Well, hey, this came together in less than 12 hours. So what else can we expect in the Amazon space?
So I'm just gonna say, like, this is what's so beautiful about this industry, right? It's like when you're dealing with people in other parts of your life, it's like, I don't know, maybe. And here it's like we're the coolest friends in this. It's like literally, I think 9 o'clock at night last night. I'm like, Ryan, what do you think? Maybe should we ask people? Yeah, why not? And right away was like, yeah, sure, let's join. That's the cool thing about the space. And we're not talking about people that are not busy. I just want to make sure everybody knows, like, there are some really cool people. Okay. So thank you. We really appreciate you guys. You guys are real dear friends of Frisbee and us personally. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
You know, Pearl, they say if you want something done, ask a busy person.
It's so true. I'm just going to say, I'm the COO at Frisbee, but I'm the COO of my family just the same. Like, literally, my grandmother's IT person, my mother's organizer, my father's mechanic, like whatever anything needs to get, like Ephraim will be joining. Surprise guest. Okay, I should have said that. But Ephraim will be joining soon. So he could attest to that. But like, I agree with you. It's those people that just, what can we say? We don't know how to say no. That's the truth. So it's just what it is. Yeah,
well,
but
first, oh, sorry to interrupt there. So first and foremost, how are both of you during this time of year? Is this let's kind of recap in the eyes because you're both agencies, right? We're working for other clients. Is this a busy time of year? Is this a down time of year? What does this time holistically look like for you both?
I would say it's a little bit of a deep breathing and kind of reconsolidating time of year. I think both of us really maximize the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sprint, getting that all over with. But it doesn't stop. I mean, we're going straight into New Year, New You for our brands that are in health and wellness space. And that's a ton of prep work and getting everything covered there. And then you go into Prime Day and then you go into back to school. So I think, as Pearl said, that's the best part about our jobs is it never slows down. So I think if there's anything that we could talk about for next year, it's like, really, how do you focus on what's important? Because as an entrepreneur and as an individual and even as an Amazon seller, I think that's one of the most important things you can do is get really good at looking at all the cards you have on the table and figuring out how to really navigate what matters most to you.
Yeah. Reevaluating everything, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, yeah, I mean, now that like we're past Christmas, a little bit less busy or hectic, but I'm trying to use this time to kind of catch up on, cleaning up my ClickUps, my Slack, my email, all these things that I can catch up on before the beginning of the year.
That makes sense. So, and is that the same thing with clients too? Or is that people are just like, hey, don't email me until, January 3rd or something like that? Like
more, yeah. I mean, I've seen more meetings set for like the next couple of weeks as opposed to like, this week.
Gotcha. Yeah, and this is always like a traditionally people take off Christmas and New Year's. I think a lot of people, even the space, it's very traditional. Is that just a nature of? Is that actually numbers, or is that something where people are just like, hey, I'm spent, like I can see a new calendar right around the corner? Is that very traditional for you guys, or is that something that's just a natural consequence for people and everything's built up to this point, and then all of a sudden it's like we have to like just decompress because you can't go at that speed all the time?
Our team takes off throughout the whole period. And I mean, I don't think it ever stops with what we're doing. It's kind of just like check notifications, check everything important, but also don't be logged in, don't be scheduling meetings. And I think it's just mutual respect. A lot of our brands and clients are in a very similar position where they are traveling, taking off. And I feel like a lot of people are just, like Leon said, kind of refreshing for what's going to be coming next year. So it's a lot of goal planning. It's a lot of getting ready for presentations and things like that. But we don't put a lot of focus on like going full time because family's enough. You're traveling, you're dealing with so many external factors. And then if work was going at the same rate of change, it would be a lot for people.
Absolutely. I think that is important, obviously, take time away, but in a world where it's 24/7, we have to kind of always be in tune, but not always. We're trying not to be in tune, so it's a catch-22. I know we have one more guest too that's kind of waiting in the wings, so I think it's natural to bring him in too. We have all agencies here today, so it's natural. We have Michael Mayer of Cartology. So, Michael, welcome to our 2023 Predict Not Prediction show.
Wow, that's a big hello right there. I love it.
Oh, look at that. Man, he already came prepared. I like that.
Hey, I think my connection.
Oh, his connection might be a little bit slow, he said.
So yeah, my connection's kind of crazy. Hopefully it gets better.
No problem here. We'll hold on the floor. But Michael, thanks for joining. We were just talking about this time of year for you as an agency or you as a person. Is it important to kind of take time away and kind of just be in tune as you can and really refocus for the next year? What's kind of that look like for you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Did you hear me all right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard because especially knowing that you're going into next year, and I think this is a time when a lot of people plan, but because I think I heard you guys saying that things are 24/7, so it's hard to force yourself to take a break and say, I need to spend time away. Something that I implemented a couple years ago was taking basically a Sabbath on Saturdays, and just spending time away, disconnecting from work, not doing the things that maybe I feel like I need to, and just trusting that the stuff that I'm doing during the week is enough. And so I adhere to that. But it kind of depends upon, I think, the state of my business too. If things are going really well and I'm not really needed at that point, it's a lot easier to pull back than if I feel like, hey, I'm kind of in a place where I need to grind a little bit more. Then I end up spending more time in that place. I'm currently in Asheville, North Carolina right now, so I am taking some time away just to hang and be with my wife and daughter and some of my other family. But I think you just kind of have to force yourself to do that stuff. Because otherwise, for me, I would just keep working.
I think that's the drive of an entrepreneur in general. You want to keep working, but you have to have that barrier of knowing when you have to step away. So let's start off like what we know, like 2022, obviously this shows like this or articles. I mean, I've seen hundreds of emails, like I swear hundreds of emails of like, this is what we learned. This is what we think is going to happen in 2023. All these kind of things like came into fruition. And I think it boils down to multiple major ones, but I want to start with you for your teams. Let's talk about the surprising natures of looking backwards. Hindsight's 2020. What did we learn in 2022? If you can kind of bundle it all together from your guys' perspective. Maybe Leon, start with you.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on one thing. Kind of Michael touched on a little bit, but I think one of the best things that this time period of the year can kind of give you, and stepping away, is that we probably should be spending 20% of our time anyway on just like thinking and not doing anything, and that's probably when you get the best ideas for your business anyway. So if you do have some downtime, like one of the best things you could do is take that downtime just to kind of sit and think, right? Because or write, sit and write, and I think that's one of the best ways you can get ideas for where to focus on your business in 2023. In 2022, I mean, I would say some personal things I learned, maybe specific to Amazon, not specific, but like the power of focus. I think is something that's really important. And I think also that 2022 was kind of, it's I guess over the last couple of years we've seen sort of like less hacks, right, and more sort of real marketing. There's been a shift, like I think in the Amazon space, from let's say 2014 to 2019, 2020, or 2013. Is a lot about like tactics and hacks, and I think today it's more about how to operate a really good business, how to differentiate, how to have a unique selling proposition, focusing on creative things that traditionally outside of Amazon brands have had to do, but in Amazon maybe you didn't have to do as much. And I think that's kind of been part of the shift. And then I think trying to understand how to cut through the noise. There's so much data, and trying to understand like what do I really need to focus on. Like, so when I think of things, I think of like shiny objects. Let's say Google to Amazon ads. It's kind of a shiny object. Like if you just focused really on Amazon and put a lot of your focus there, you would probably do just better, because that Google to Amazon ad is going to be just such a small part and not successful profitability wise for majority of people. Like just focus on the things that are really working and the fundamentals. And I think this year kind of showed that. I also think that this year, I think we had a 2021 was kind of like a master class on logistics. And I think 2022 was more like finance and operations, because a lot of people had compressed margins this year and have had to do things, in the business in order to find ways to improve margins. And so again, I think sometimes these challenges will, if you can push through them, will make your business stronger, because they're going to force you to focus on the things that in 2020 you didn't need to focus on, because there was so much just demand for products.
That. Yeah, I'm going to add to that, because I'm coming from a different perspective, right? Obviously, I'm not an Amazon seller, but as somebody that's we call it in our way that we operate the business, and obviously Ryan knows this, we run on the EOS model, and Leron, I know you do the same. As the integrator, right, the COO, we don't get titles in this business. We get basically thrown out of it. No ego. It's what you do. I'm the integrator. So as the integrator, I so agree with what you're saying, because it sort of was like so much, fluff, right? A lot of fluff over the last couple of years. And obviously, COVID hit that break big time for a lot of sellers. And we've seen a lot of sellers struggle now in 22. A lot of businesses in general have struggled in 22. And I think that people are going to have to be a lot more focused on their bottom line. And with that being said, the bottom line becoming a lot more strategic and becoming a lot more focused, like you said, on teams, right? Teams is a huge factor. And that's something that we are working a lot on internally at Frisbee, how teams and how individuals really make such a big impact on the organization. And I think that people in the Amazon space are starting to figure out that they actually have to treat this thing like a real thing. It's not fun and games anymore. And I think that's where, in my opinion, the aggregators have failed, or at least the ones that are failing is where they failed. It was a lot of hype around, the revenue and the numbers, and not really down to a science on how are we operating this machine. what's the logistics machine look like? What does our PPC logistics, PPC machine look like? And I think now, because we're working on a lot more of a tighter spending situation, it's more like, okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty, and like you said, be more focused and make sure we have the right people that can execute on that. So I love what you just said.
Yesterday I was in a 20-minute Zoom call with a bunch of very successful sellers and business owners. Not everyone there was a seller, just like business owners, and a good part were sellers. And one line that was shared there was, make sure that nobody in your business that's in charge of revenue has a limited belief, right? Like sort of mindset, and I think that's something everybody should be focused on in their business, because, if your goal is to go from whatever, right? Let's say you have a $3 million business and you want to go to a $6 million business next year, or a $5 million business. If you have a e-commerce, manager or VP of growth or whatever it is, and they don't think it's possible, forget about it. Like, you have no chance in the first place. So you kind of mentioned team, and it's a good time to focus on, who in your team is in charge of revenue, and like what's going on in their head in terms of like what they think is possible for next year.
Making sure that your vision is aligned with everybody else in the organization and that you're all heading in that right direction.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, I want to pivot to Destiny, because I thought there was a really cool post by one of your executives on your team that showed a lot of like the good but also the bad side of your business. I thought that was a really kind of cool way to recap 2022. It's like, hey, we might have sucked here, but we got really good at this regards, like, and kind of putting that out there. Like, what was kind of you know what I'm talking about?
Alex's bullet points.
Yeah.
I was cracking up. I post so much content. Alex is over here posting like 3-word bullet points, and it does really well. So that was humbling. I want to piggyback off what everyone else is saying, but I think on both the Amazon side and the entrepreneurial side, I think maturity is probably like the one word that really defines the last 12 months. Not that it was easy to be successful on Amazon 5 to 6 years ago, but when we all got started, it was a lot easier. And it's because, supply chain wasn't near as big of an issue. It was a lot cheaper. Amazon advertising costs were ridiculously cheaper. And all of that gave you more margin for error, because you could have terrible Amazon advertising strategy and do really well. You could have a terribly optimized listing and still do well because there wasn't as much competition. It wasn't as much pay to play. And that, I would say, probably inflated a lot of ego and gave people a lot of opportunity to grow really fast. So on the agency side, a lot of people who aren't amazing at their job were able to scale really quickly because there was so much demand for doing external work. And a lot of the brands didn't have the team structure that everyone else has talked about on this call because they didn't need it. They could have subpar B players and still do really well because Amazon in itself was so much easier. And I think in the last year, the compounding issues with a post-COVID world and the complications that we saw on the operations side has been really enlightening. And we've seen a lot of agencies, really big agencies, close down in the last 6 months. And we've seen kind of a lot of things coming out of the woodwork, I would say, because you truly have to be good at your job now. And I think that's something that both Leon and I do really well, is communicating and educating this space and not just being yes men, I would say. Because if you're not able to communicate with your clients and give them a realistic indication of what's to come, then there's going to be so much friction. And I think that's what we've all seen lately is, having to have those really hard conversations with brands of, your conversion rate's really poor compared to category. It doesn't matter what we do. This isn't going to do well. And that maturity, I think, has caused us to grow a lot and focus on so much more than just results. It's focused on how our team communicates with every single person we're doing business with. It's caused us to realign on our vision and our goals for the next year and be a little bit more realistic on expectation setting.
Love that.
Absolutely. And I think he figured out his connection issues, Michael.
I'm in the bathroom right now, so hopefully this actually works for me. I don't know why the things are so bad in this house, but thanks for getting me back on.
That is something I would not have predicted for this webinar.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it somewhat creative. My lighting's not great, but at least I'm here. I wanted to say something, and it was something that Laurent mentioned. It was something that Destiny mentioned, and it's that things are just more. I mean, I think we've all touched on it, but things are more difficult now. There's a lot more competition. There's a lot more eyes on at least the Amazon specific space. But I mean, we've even seen that e-commerce in general hasn't been, the ante is up, and Shopify's laid off people. There's businesses that are even in that specific space that are not, maybe not the brands themselves, but that aren't doing super well. And I think there was this big boom that happened during the pandemic that people are now repositioning with. It's happened with Amazon. They've hired additional people. But I think things are just more difficult and more complex. And part of the reason I think, to Destiny's point, we've seen, big Amazon agencies close up shop. I think if you're just trying to earn business and you're not being realistic, and I think this goes back to knowing who you, if we're talking about service providers, knowing who you are as a service provider, who you're actually going to serve best. If you're just trying to get new business, you can get new business, but can you sustain that business? Do you have the right business model? And are you actually going to be able to get them the results that you're telling them you can get them? Because there are so many times when I hear sales departments really sell something well, which is great, but then it comes to the actual operations, the marketing side, or whatever the case might be, and you're not able to fulfill on that. And there are many times when I've had to have conversations with people and say, look, I don't know if I'm the right person to help you. I think you've got a lot more work to do on the front end. From a brand perspective, whatever the case might be, everything has to be tight. And if it's not that it's gonna always be buttoned up, because I don't think it really truly is, but if you don't come correct with from a brand's perspective, if you don't come correct with what your brand is, who you're going after, how your product actually helps people, if you can't do that and you're not clear on that, there's so much more competition. There's so much more money in the space. I don't think other people are going to care, and those other brands are going to take position, and that's just more time that you are now no longer in place to reach high in search, and that's kind of the goal on Amazon, is just being high in search. And if you can't jockey for that position, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to throw out there, because sometimes I feel like it seems like we're leading with more pessimism than ever before about Amazon. But I would say it's definitely not the case. I think it's more realism. But
yeah,
I am very excited about the direction the platform's going. And I think it's just a more mature environment. And I think that opens up a ton of opportunity for the people who are actually building legitimate brands, who are focusing on connecting with their audience and solving problems. Those are the people that are going to succeed no matter what platform they're on, no matter who ends up, gaining traction the next 3 years. The people who are in it to build something real and to not just get rich quick and quit their job, I think those are the people that we're seeing success on. And Amazon's giving more opportunity than ever before, whether it's the creatives available with ad types, the new data they're releasing. Everything they do is for the customer. And as long as you keep that in mind and not always thinking that Amazon's out to get you as a seller, I think that opens up a really big opportunity to take advantage and move 10 times quicker than a lot of the big brands can.
I think you brought up a great point. We're talking about seller versus brand mentality. And this is something that I've thought a lot about.
Yeah.
But if you're so super reliant upon Amazon, when Amazon does something bad to you, it seems that much worse. And I think the future of retail, it's now, but also the future is being omni-channel. So if you don't have any other channel besides Amazon, well, that might be all I focus on, and that's what my specialty is. But if you don't have any other channel besides Amazon, something bad happens, you're down for the count. And you have to be, I think, where your consumers are, and there's so much shelf space, both digital and physical. And if you're not in those spots, then people are going to go to the people that are in those spots. And I think it's just that simple.
One thing I want to add for brand owners or anybody in business is that, I think you have to always be growing, right? And I don't think you can say, or that you should be saying, oh, 2023, economy or whatever, it's going to be difficult because you're sort of giving up all your power, right, to some external thing out there. And when I look at the space, and when I look at our clients, and I see a client and they're in this particular space and they have 0.78% of the market, right, in this particular niche. There's so much opportunity for brands that for any business that does go and executes in 2023 or puts in the effort to execute in 2023, because there's so much market share available for you to go get, even if the space doesn't grow or even if the space declines. If you go out there and plan and put in the effort, then you should be able to go get market share, even if the market is down, even if the economy is not good. People are still going to be buying stuff on Amazon, right? And I think the same way as an agency, I think for us as agencies, in my opinion, there's going to be a ton of opportunity in 2023. People will be I think, like Destiny said, people will be scrutinizing their agencies more if it's a tough year, which means if you're a good agency, you have opportunity to bring in more business and keep more of your clients as a result. And clients, sellers will need agencies more if it's a tough year. So I think in any business, you have to go into it and say, I'm not going to give my power over to this, outside external politics, geopolitics, economy, whatever it is, right? Like, you can't go in with the mindset of like handing over your power.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that from Frisbee's side, we also, as a leadership team, we're constantly like, let's not blame it on these 5 things. What could we internally change? Right. What could we do better? I'm curious, Liran, Destiny, Michael, what would you say? Let's put aside everything we spoke about. Let's talk strategically from the Amazon side. What are some of the key things that you would like to see? You're interviewing a new client, right? What are you looking at from a product side on success? Like, what are, let's say, the top 3 things that you would say, okay, you guys are being strategic, I like what I'm seeing? Like, what would be those top 3 things that you would look out for?
Can I tee this up? Because I really want to hear y'all's opinions on this, because as an agency at Better AMS, we don't do anything with conversion rate optimization per se. And I would love to hear everyone else's insights on this. For us, as Amazon advertisers, driving traffic is, in all honesty, incredibly simple. It's a pay-per-click model. If someone's clicking on our ads, they're interested. If they don't buy, that's due to the listing typically. I mean, there's variables in that. So for us, one of the most important things that we look for is strictly conversion rate optimization. So we're going to dive in and say, hey, how are you converting compared to your category? Because if you have a poor conversion rate or you're doing below average, we will not take you on as a client, because I don't have opportunity to go in and improve your listings like Liran does and Michael does. So I'm very interested to hear those two. But the second thing I will say is we really vet brand alignment, and making sure that every person that we work with has realistic expectations, because we are not magic workers. And a lot of people have that view of us due to our presence on social media, that we're going to be able to go in and fix all their problems because we seem to know what we're talking about. And that's just
say that again for the people in the back, Destiny. I don't think they heard you. We're not what?
We're not magic workers. We're not wizards. I'm just really good at talking about Amazon ads. That's it. So
I think if you have a crap product,
yes,
like that's going to get weeded out.
I love that.
Don't get me wrong. There'll still be crap products out there. There's still going to be a ton of stuff that's direct from manufacturer. I think a lot of it, I don't want to like hate on China, but I think a lot of it does come from China. I think there's good stuff that comes from there, but there's going to be a lot of direct to manufacturer stuff. Like, people are always going to go to price. And especially if people are worried, regardless of what the economy actually does, if people are worried about the economy, to Laurent's point, people are still going to purchase stuff, but it's going to change how they purchase things, maybe a little more scrutinizing in terms of how they spend their money, or maybe how much they spend on something. So people are still going to purchase products, and I think there will still be some crap products out there. But the people who are buying for that premium space, I think that's going to change here. When if I'm talking to a brand and I think about who's going to be the best fit, I'm looking at like what does your product do? Like, is there substance there? And is there even a story? It doesn't have to be like a high tech story. Like, we came in and created the first farm to table deodorant. Or that's not even the right term, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we've created the supply chain, and we've got biochemical engine. Like, it doesn't have to be incredibly complex. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, but I think if you just have something that meets a need and it does it really well, and then branding, design, packaging, all that stuff looks good. If you have those things, I'm looking more at psychographic stuff. Like, do you think Amazon is even a necessary channel? Or are you kind of like, I don't know. If you're, I don't know about it, I don't know that I'm the right person, because we're all in on that. And if you don't see that as a place you want to invest in, then I'm not going to like get it at the table every week, or my team's not going to be the one that's at the table every week trying to get you to invest more in it. If you believe in, people are making super quick purchase decisions on Amazon, 50% purchase in 15 minutes or less, 28% purchase in 3 minutes or less. If your creative isn't on point, people are going to click back out and they're going to go into search. So are you willing to invest in additional creative assets? It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but are you willing to invest in those? And are you willing to invest in advertising? If you aren't willing to do those two things, or you don't see any of those things as valuable, I think I don't think a lot of agencies that are worth their salt are going to want to take you on, but also I think you're going to get weeded out because you're just wanting to coast on Amazon. And when things are getting more complex, more mature, this is not the time to coast. This is the time to lean in and focus on getting additional market share. And I think to Laurent's point, someone's 0.78% market share. I don't think many brands are 10%. So there's always going to be that additional opportunity. Are you fighting to get that? Or are you just kind of hoping that you're going to get that? I think a lot of brands hope we've got the best product. People are going to just naturally buy our product. And that's not the case. You have to convince people why your product is important and why they should spend money on it.
Pearl, you asked the question, what are like ideal clients kind of doing, right? And like, what about the clients that, that we take on? The thing I see that great sellers do is they're constantly putting energy into their business. You have a great listing, but then you are A/B testing your main image. You A/B testing your title. You're A/B testing, your A+ content. You're working on how to get premium A+ content, and you upgrade that. We had a client that, invested $10,000 in making just a holiday type video for their product, right? And it's interesting because, and this client's very successful. They've grown with over the last few years from a couple $1 million in sales to 40 million plus. And they come in and, I met them face to face recently, and they said to me, when we launch a product now, it could be a year until we get to like break even or profitability, right? And that's their mindset when they go into a new product launch. And then you might have a, less savvy seller that comes in and wants to be able to break even in 2-3 months on a product, right? So I think it's really understanding the marketplace and consistently putting like every day thinking about how can I make my business better, right? Like I still think the biggest sort of lifeblood of successful sellers is they always have a product pipeline that they're launching, just because there does sometimes happen to be a life cycle to certain products on Amazon, and they're constantly working on improving and investing in their brand to grow, and they're testing. They're willing to test something and spend $5,000 to see if it works or not, and if they can double down on it. And if they have 10 tests like that a year and 2 or 3 work, then it's successful because the winners kind of, beat the losers. It's the same with products. In general, for us, for clients we want to take on, like Destiny said, we don't want to be the magic worker, right? We want to work with clients that are already profitable in their business and, want to scale and need the help to get there. But we found it a bad idea when we take clients that are not profitable, because there's already so much pressure on the business that, additional fees and using an agency, I don't think makes sense. There's other options, freelancers and other options that you could do on a smaller scale before you go out and work with an agency also. And I think in the beginning, sellers should try to do everything themselves until it's no longer worth your time or effort to learn and do it. The idea of coming in and outsourcing everything when you're low on budget, like doesn't make any sense. And of course, yeah, what you see on social media is the highlights, right? Like, of course, we have successful clients and we have clients that sometimes are not successful, and that's there's many factors involved in that. And what you're going to see is the highlights. You know, the same way we see people, unfortunately, on social media, and they look like they have the best lives ever, and then you see they commit suicide or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
social media, and in general, like, um, somebody told me yesterday, many people out there have a limited consciousness, and so that's what you see on social media, right? Like, you have to kind of also think bigger for yourself, and aside from everything you see out on social media.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. 100%. I'm just gonna focus for a second on what you said about not hiring people right away and really understanding the business. And I think that's a very, very important piece, for anybody that's listening and starting out. I think that's a lesson for any business, really.
Right.
But understanding the ropes from the very bottom up and really digging deep into it gives you a much, firstly, I think there's a bigger passion for your business when you actually are in the trenches and involved with every little thing, and then you slowly start delegating it. But really understanding the person that you end up delegating it to is also a very big factor. Why are things taking so long? Why am I not seeing results? When you've actually been there, I think you just end up having a lot more patience for the process, and you let things play out the way they do. And which leads me into the second point that you had about, or the first point about the investment part. I think that's also really, really important. Obviously, with that, being very mindful and strategic, that you actually have an end goal, and it's not just, okay, we're spending marketing dollars and we're spending on ad costs. So when the product is just crap, quite frankly. So I think that's very, very important. I would love to hear more about, just going a little bit more in detail. Destiny, if we could go back to you about the product, what are you looking for from, let's say, the brand perspective, design perspective? What are you looking to see? Take away the mechanism of it. What are you looking to see from an outside perspective? Because I know when I shop on Amazon, I'm looking to see what does it look like. I mean, the listing obviously is a big factor. What are those few things that jump at you that you're looking at?
Yeah, I will say we see a lot of brand owners have very subjective opinions about their products. And it's really easy to pull, one or two reviews that you get, or have personal feelings after you've invested years into producing a product. So everything we look at is on the data side. So Amazon's released so much data in this area that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, Amazon will actually tell you your retail data on how you're converting relative to category average. So I think that's probably like one of the first places I start when I'm having a conversation with a brand. Is I'll go look at, kitchen knives and say, hey, category average for kitchen knives is 30% conversion rate. You have a 20% conversion rate. So what can we do to improve that? And then that's where it kind of gets into building probably a more niche audience, and starting to realize how you can optimize your listing and things like that to target that specific demographic. And Amazon now gives us demographic data as well within brand analytics. You can see age, income, gender, all of these things for your typical demographic. And then you can take those insights and build a listing. And now that's probably a little bit of, I don't want to say bad advice, but there's a lot of people who are generalists in the space. They want to compete with, the Chinese sellers that have the most generic product. That's number one because it has the highest volume. And that's all fine and dandy, but it takes a lot of money to do that. So
you can try to do it. Doesn't mean you'll be
Yeah.
successful in doing it.
Yeah, you can try and you may get up there, but you'll hemorrhage a lot of money and probably not be profitable. So we're really having that conversation of like, what data points can allow us to have a really honest discussion with our brands and show them, hey, this is the objective data. This is exactly how you're doing right now. And here's how you can work backwards to improve upon that. And then providing them with the right contacts and relationships of the people we trust in the space to make that happen.
I love that. I love that. So using that information basically is that when you would say, okay, so we see that the audience is more of, let's say, male or female, so we could then suggest different colors or different kinds of, you know, branding based on the information that you're seeing. Very cool. So that's a great way leading into 23 of, you know, sellers really digging deep into that data to be able to predict, you know, what they could do better at, you know, going into next year. I love that.
Well, I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, I think if brands are being more objective about their product and going out and doing some kind of market research, they're hopefully coming to the table saying, hey, I want this product to be the best. I don't care about maybe being right specifically about what it is now, but if there's a way that we can improve upon it and having that willingness to do that, and they're going out and doing market research and they're finding out more about their product and how people view their product, if they can be more objective, then I think their product will end up being the best. If they want to stay subjective, then their product's going to be great for how they view it, but you're not selling it to yourself unless you're like Ed Helms in the office and you're just buying a bunch of your own stuff and putting in your car, but that's not what's actually growing your brand. So I think being able to be more objective, get feedback from other people. There are people that do, companies that do market research on products specifically, going out and interviewing shoppers that are in your category and saying, even if it's a small sample size, but like talk with 10, 20 shoppers and say, how do you go and look for product in this category? And if you're not aligned with how they're actually shopping, then people are going to miss your product.
Those are all good points. I think there's a good segue for all of you because of the spaces that we all work in. The question is, how do I know when I'm ready? But always comes up, but to like work with somebody bigger. But I'm curious for all of you, since we're talking predictions, Amazon throws these curveballs, or e-commerce spaces throw these curveballs at us, and you have to have some sort of predictive cap on, but also have to have a realistic cap. When you don't know what challenges we're going to be thrown at this year, or these, hey, inventory shortages, or hey, you ran out. I think something during Prime Day was, hey, Amazon's algorithm just allowed you to bid way more than what you should have. Something like that, where you just can't predict those things from happening. How do you have that conversation with sellers who there's just going to be this margin of we don't know, we can't predict it, and it's a gray area we're going to have to tackle when we get there?
Look, I mean, I don't think there's one person that in January of 2020 or December of 2019 was sitting in this kind of webinar and said, guess what's going to happen in March 2020, right?
Right.
There are always going to be challenges that come at us that we did not plan for. But again, I think you have to put in the work in every single area of your business, including, you know, inventory planning as much as possible, and in every area of your business. And then also just say, you know, I have the confidence that the challenges that are going to come up, we'll be able to tackle them, you know, and overcome them. And a lot of times they also make us better businesses as a result. But, you know, there's only, you know, there's only so much you could do. You know, I think put in maximum effort in every part of your business, and don't panic when a challenge comes in. And, you know, all your competitors are dealing, if it's a Amazon like challenge like that, then everybody else is dealing with the same issues. So for example, inventory limits. I mean, if you didn't learn that you should have some kind of FBM option, then you should have learned, right? Other businesses are going to be prepared because they have FBM as an option, for example. So if you get to that kind of challenge, you can still at least ship and deliver products. But, you know, you'll never be able to have 100% foresight into all the challenges that are gonna come your way. But I think you need to not panic when they come, and kind of know that, you know, and especially also when you're serving clients that are dealing with challenges, you know, your business serves a purpose to solve a problem for somebody else. So, you know, you have to be able to find the best ways to solve those problems.
I think the conversation too that you're having with your clients, if you're an agency, if you're a service provider, if your conversation is just everything's going to be great, this is going to be awesome, we're going to do it, people aren't prepared for when stuff happens. And like in a sales call or discovery call, when I talk with someone, I'm asking like, If you're on Amazon, have you had issues with Amazon before? Something that we see a lot. Have you experienced anything like that? And just kind of setting the stage early on so that they know there's going to be ambiguities. There's going to be things that Amazon throws at us. That's part of why we're here, is to help facilitate that and make that easier for you and like go to bat for you. But if your conversation, again, sales is disconnected from operations, and you're selling someone like just aggressive growth and it's going to be incredible, and then they hit the wall, the reality, they hit that realistic wall. To Destiny's point, it's not really pessimism, it's just being realistic. I think you can still be optimistic about the reality of things and say the glass is half full, but you still have to measure where the glass is at. If you just look at it and say, yeah, it's definitely all full, and you ignore where things are at, then you're not gonna be prepared. You're gonna get caught with your pants down, to Laurent's point, if you can't predict everything. So if the conversations that you're having are like, hey, what are the things that could go wrong? Are we prepared for those things? What are just some of those things? And I think if you're in that mindset, when something does hit, you're going to be a lot more prepared to take on those challenges instead of folding.
Speaking about getting caught with your pants down from your bathroom office is
yeah.
What a weird
Fortunately, my
segue we
pants
just
are on,
had.
but
Yeah,
I can't really tell you for sure. I don't know if this is that kind of a prediction show.
right.
Well, if you couldn't see, if you're listening to this, we have another special guest that had made some time today in his busy schedule. Prime, thanks for hopping on today and joining our 2023 non-prediction show. Prediction, non-prediction show. So how are you doing today?
Doing good.
I like the angle. It's the top down. You have a massive table.
That's the power angle.
That's the power angle.
Yeah,
I'm coming from the opposite one.
Yeah, that's the office in the background.
Oh, look at that. See,
Oh, this is badass.
Wow.
if you're listening to this, we got a manual zoom from afar. Oh my gosh, this is too much.
You need to have that as an intro. Start from far out, and then as you enter, just zoom into you with some music.
It usually does that when I get onto Zoom. It's all the way out, and once it hears my voice, it just zooms into my face. So
Oh, that's so cool.
Technology, gotta love it. So we're talking. I know you're busy. If you people obviously in the space you work with, it's kind of been this curveball mentality as well. We were just talking about the challenges of when you talk with clients, you can't always predict. You have this gray area you have to operate in. Does that resonate with you at all in the space that you're working in?
definitely, the last 3 hours actually, I was working on content for Q1 and Q2, and I was just reviewing and crunching numbers from Amazon's new. First of all, the referral fees that they have increased. I mean, they did a peak season increase, and then now they're more or less keeping it. They just lowered it a drop, but like that stays. Storage is going up for oversized and standard size. And then the long-term storage after 6 months and after a year, it's really scary to see that number. So what I'm going to try to come up with information is like real data, and like information is like when you have a pallet in Amazon, we'll give them like Amazon works by cubic feet, but you give a seller an average cubic feet that fits on a pallet. So we'll go with that scenario. So it's the easiest to understand, and like just go if it goes directly into Amazon from wherever you have it, from your supplier, from China, or from a 3PL. Month 1, how much it costs you. Month 2, month 3, right? So question is, if you know you're going to sell this product in 30 days, no problem, send it into Amazon. If you think you're going to sell it in 3 months, okay. But if you're not sure you're going to sell it in the next 6 months, you're really like killing your whole margins and profits even before selling it. So like Laurent and other are speaking about PPC and like watching what you're spending. Like people get desperate because there's not as much consumers right now buying it, right? And then you try to increase your PPC like to get more and more visible. Like this, you get sales, but like on the other end, even before selling, you got to be so careful on how much product you have in Amazon. So people that think, oh, I don't have that, like the inventory limits are not that bad for me. I could send in product as much as I want. Or they don't even realize if they have a portfolio of like 800 or 900 SKUs, right? And they don't realize that, hey, we have like 10 pallets sitting around there for a year. As of April 1st, 2023, you're going to be paying $585 and change for each pallet sitting there over a year. So if you have 10 pallets that numbers are pretty aggressive numbers. So I'm working on that right now. So that's what I was like. I was shocked to see those numbers.
Ephraim, it'd be great if you could, I mean, good for marketing and in general for sellers, if you can kind of create a graphic that shows like before and after, and with like fee examples of everything that's like changed. I would say, sort of on this topic, 2023 or now should also be the year that you like evaluate your sourcing, because number one, uh, if you're bringing in products from China or probably anywhere in the world right now, a lot of the factories are suffering. The economy is also really poor in China. I think the dollar has also gotten stronger against the RMB. So you have a lot of reasons, one, to renegotiate with your suppliers, and two, to potentially look for new suppliers who might be hungry for the business and are going to give you better, better pricing. It'll be interesting to me also if we see sort of some people kind of going back to China this year to source products, because country seems to be opening up there. I know that's something sellers have not done in years. I haven't been since 2019. But I think 2023 should be like reevaluate your supply chain and your sourcing, because it's a good opportunity to to renegotiate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share my PowerPoint once it's done. But part of that, what you just said, like I'm working on also, is like there is parts where you could negotiate right now as a seller using these like logistic services. There are parts where prices came down, and there is places where you can negotiate and get a better deal. And then there's parts where it didn't budge, or it's still going up, or things like that. So sometimes people come and try to negotiate, and then they stick on to the things where it's non-negotiable really, and then you're wasting your time. Versus if you focus on a few couple of things where that could really impact cost of
What's an example?
for example, imports, pick up from the port, um, trucking, pallet fees, supply fees. All these things have come down drastically in the last 2 months. Some of them even 50% less than 2 months ago, like literally huge numbers. So there is parts like that you can negotiate with your 3PL, or if you have your own warehouse with these suppliers. Hey, I know rates came down. I don't want to pay rates I paid 2 months ago. Give me a better deal, and they'll probably get a better deal. And then there's parts where like people that have, like for us 3PLs, leasing a 3PL the last 2 years was the real estate went up like 5-6 times the previous cost, and that's there. I mean, if you sign the lease for 10 years,
Right.
technically screwed. You're not gonna be able to budge. That's one thing where it's very hard to negotiate. The second part is labor as well. When COVID hit, like people were getting minimum wage, and then people didn't want to stop. People stopped working for minimum wage because they knew they're going to get better pricing, and that's really not budging at the moment, especially in New York, PA, New Jersey, California, all these Texas. Anybody that got raised higher than minimum wage, or they got paid 15, 16, or $18 an hour, you can't hire enough people for $16 an hour to do the same work. It's not there yet. So these are the two parts where it's a big piece of the logistics where it impacts cost, but there's so many different items where you start knocking on the small things. For example, trucking is 50% less than half a year ago. Ocean freight is a few 100% less than a year ago or half a year ago. So there's so many places where you can really negotiate and get a better deal. So there's places where you can really save on cost. So even if you have a little bit tighter year 2023, you could still be on top of your game and be profitable.
On the other hand, I see, if you want to hire in the US in your e-commerce business, I do think it's easier. In 2020, we're competing with aggregators that were just paying stupid salaries to people that, 10 months later, they ended up firing, unfortunately, but because it wasn't really sustainable. And, on a regular basis, I'm sure Destiny and Michael are maybe seeing this too, but I'm getting DMs from people that are, working for aggregators or whatever, like, hey, I'm looking for, because they know the hammer's about to drop. If they haven't been let go yet, then they've seen layoffs in their company, and they're concerned, unfortunately.
It's coming.
I mean, there've been a lot of layoffs already, but more will probably come next year. And so I think there is kind of a potentially a better pool of talent in the U.S. that is available in terms of hiring.
Right, except for labor, which is what
Labor is different.
Right.
Yeah, I'm talking about knowledge workers versus kind of
right.
labor.
Now we see the same. We see the same. I just wanna focus one just reiterate what Ephraim was saying, because I think that's pretty important. Is really doing your math and doing your homework before you're actually reaching out to a service provider that you're working with on things that can actually, be reduced in price, and coming with hard cold facts. Is it maybe an invoice comparing to a competitor that is showing lower rates? Come with facts, so it's actually going to happen, and don't ask for something that's not reasonable. So, for example, the carriers have a yearly increase. It's published information. UPS, DHL, FedEx, across the board, just increased 6.9%. For part of their reasons being because of fuel increases, which we know is not the case. But you can't fight City Hall. There's no such thing as them not going to give you that 6.9 increase. It's not going to happen. So see where else you could actually cut. And I think this advice that Ephraim is giving is really, really important. And then you could actually come with, data and say, look, I know this is happening. Could you compare A to B and make this happen for me? So you actually have, results versus then, just breaking your head and just getting frustrated on something that's just not possible.
I think Ephraim's talking about this, like his this area of specialty should be assigned to everybody that, and I think in any business.
Yep.
But if there are things or aspects of your business that you don't know or you don't excel in, this should be the year that you ask for help with those things and do additional research. Talk with other people that are in that space and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. What are you doing? Going out and talking with, if it's hiring someone, like if you're doing your books, but you're not the person that really knows how to do your books well, and you need someone to do that for you, that's going to be a lot more, I think, judicious about it, and is going to provide a service that ultimately helps you. If you don't know how to do those things and you're not getting help now, I think now's the time to go out and get help so that you can hone in and focus on doing the things that you do best. Because to Laurent's earlier point about shiny object syndrome, it's really easy to get distracted and get focused on a lot of things. And if you can stay focused on the one or two areas that you're really going to have the biggest impact, and you get help in those other areas, whatever that might be, and not try to reinvent the wheel in those things, I think you're going to be a lot more successful. But if you don't know what's going on, or you don't know about this certain area and you're just kind of winging it, it's going to be a lot harder to do that.
I have to jump off, but thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Laurent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurent. Happy New Year.
Thanks. See you tonight.
All right. See ya.
And we that did hit our hour mark. I just wanted to quickly go around, and I didn't get it from Liran, but where there's opportunity, I think that there's a lot of great key points that we covered already. If we can quickly just around I'll start with you, Destiny. Opportunity for 2023 that you see for Amazon sellers, what would be that number one bright spot that you think?
Yeah, I would say Amazon is releasing a ton around brand building, social, data. Every single one of these areas has releases almost every single week. So make sure you're staying in tune with what's possible and what add advantages you can hop on that's really going to help give you a slight competitive advantage from everyone else. So definitely stay in tune with all the new things that are coming out, and then pick and choose what's best for your brand.
Michael, for you.
I think this is the time to be really honest about what you're doing. Like, is your product really the best that it can be? Is your brand as visually appealing? Is it engaging as you need it to be? And if it's not, I think you need to be more objective and say, this is not working, this is working, and be able to cut the chaff, or get rid of the stuff that's not working and really double down on the things that are working. So being honest and objective about your product, your brand, your positioning in the market, and are the people that I'm working with really the ones that are helping me to move the needle, and the people that are trying to sell you on something instead of actually trying to help you, assist you, or not, the people that you should be working with. So now is the time, I think, to like find your core, be honest about your product, but find your core group of people, whatever, whoever it might be, if it's in logistics, if it's in advertising, if it's in creative, whatever the case may be, we'll find those people that really are going to help and then know what they're doing, and get rid of the people, even if you've got a nice relationship with them, if they're not moving the needle with you, make the change that you need to from a data perspective.
Amazing. And then Ephraim, thoughts, bright spots for 2023, if we have any?
Everybody's saying very good things. Like, just to put it in 2 words, it's like, you go to a doctor for a checkup, right? So 2023 is time to do a checkup on your Amazon business. Go through every single detail of your logistics, product, social, everything that we spoke about here. Because we have seen in the past history where there was a recession, or it doesn't look like it right now, but it looks like a more of a tighter year where people are more really focused on what they're buying, what they're not buying, and being careful because of inflation and all what's going on, is basically to make sure that you what's my train of thought? Basically to make sure that you know all what you need to focus on and make sure that you're saving money. Because when we've seen these scenarios in the past, there were a lot of companies where they shined in a recession, or they shined in a year where it's a very tight year. Why is that? Because they really looked at their data, they looked at what they need to focus on, and really figure out costs, what it costs them to run their business, what it costs them Amazon fees, what it costs them in advertising, all these details. And that's how you'll be able to make it through. It might be a harder year, maybe. You're not going to make as much money as 2022 or 2021, but you can still come out and be profitable and move forward. And then a year later, once things get a little better, you're just shining and just growing bigger and bigger. So that's how I would say is 2023 is doctor's checkup for Amazon. So that's my advice.
Thank you. I was saying a full body workout. I was unmuting. It was great. It was fun. I was just saying that basically doing a full body workout, the blood work, everything, all the 9 yards, focusing on your bottom line. I think that's going to be very, very important to where you can cut corners. It's going to be a tighter year without a doubt. And yeah, from my end, I just want to say one thing. 23 is going to be the year for global expansion, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm going to always say that. I'm biased. But I think people should look into what those remote fulfillment fees look like, what the NARF program looks like, if they're in any of these programs where Amazon fulfills for the rest of the world for you, and see what those fees are. You'll be very surprised. And like Ephraim said, all these rates are increasing. And see if it's time for you to actually do FBA on your own and ship to those global marketplaces if you're already in the global marketplace. And if not, you should be looking to add that onto your strategy if you're already doing everything you can in the marketplace that you're currently in. Yeah, that's
Right. I'll add on to that also. Like I've told you that in the past, I think, is basically a lot of people ordered in 2022 based on 2021 rates, right? So, based on 2021 data, and a lot of them made a mistake because obviously 2022 was not like 2021 with product, and a lot of them are sitting with a lot of extra product. And like Pearl is saying, 2023 might be for global expansion, is because if you have another 5-6 marketplaces where you can get 5% here, 2% here, 10% there, even Canada, some people do 15% of the Amazon sales in the US, you could move and get rid of your product instead of liquidation or just throwing it in the garbage, right?
That's a great point.
With it. So that's what I want to add on to that. So
you take advantage of what Amazon gives you, right? There's ease to marketplaces, just like PPC. There's new ways to test your product. There's new ways to get in front of new audiences. I always take that as a go where opportunity exists and where there's places where you can kind of be first to that market with a product opportunity finder now that exists, and see if your product exists and does well in these marketplaces or doesn't. That's an easy way for something free to tell you, yes, my opportunity can have that lift. So
I
you
think
just have to
Bezos
be
also
smarter,
said
dig a little bit
use
more.
the stuff as headwinds or tailwinds. You can
Exactly.
use the stuff that's fighting you as something that is a headwind, or you can use it a way to lift you and boost you, and to Ephraim's point, get in front of all the other people that are letting it be a headwind to them. I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult, but how you view it, I think, and is going to impact you a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap our 2023 prediction show. Again, I appreciate you guys hopping on just to give thoughts. I think when you get a lot of smart people in a virtual room like this, a lot of good things come about, and we'll always kind of learn from each other. My joy is to kind of pick up from other people in the space that are seeing the data analytics numbers from other clients and get to just sit down and chat and make each other better. So hopefully people are listening, which there was lots of people who are watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Thanks for all joining live. This will be on our social channels to share if you didn't catch it. But thank you so much to our panelists who, like you said, less than 12 hours ago, say yes to an opportunity about talking about with unscripted, no topics besides what we think is going to happen, which will maybe not happen at all. So we'll come and see you at this time next year.
My
We
joy is
appreciate
to
everyone.
join lives
Thank
for
you.
weird rooms like that and stuff. So thanks
Yeah.
for allowing me to join for about.
always a treat with you, Michael. So next time we'll have to do it in person or something like that. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Thanks
Cheers,
for tuning
guys.
in.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.